So this year's Call of Duty came out, and I guess people are now burnt out on World War games this generation of consoles, which was caused by people being burnt out on futuristic war games this generation of consoles. So I guess we landed right back to where we started, and we're back to doing Modern Warfare. This time around, the new gameplay feature is controversy. I'm sure you've heard all the wrangling that's been going on amongst journalists about this installment's razor blade sharp edginess, with it making playtesters cry and whatnot. And I have to admit, they totally got me with that obvious marketing scheme they were pulling, and I got pretty intrigued for this game. Even though I haven't enjoyed a Call of Duty game in a very long time, I decided to go ahead and give it a whirl by renting it from Redbox. And what I found from this edgy installment was inexcusable. It's really fun. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is surprisingly fun. I haven't really enjoyed Call of Duty the last few years of me being alive, so I couldn't believe it when I was actually really enjoying myself with Modern Warfare the whole way through. Keep in mind that this is still the very short and sort of uninnovative campaign you know from all the other Call of Duty campaigns, with a lot of classic Call of Duty campaign flaws still imminent. It just happens to be a really fun and well-made, short and uninnovative Call of Duty campaign. I think what makes it work so well is that they did a really good job of adding variety to all the levels. Instead of just having you shoot waves of enemies non-stop like all the other Call of Duty campaigns, this game does something different in every level and adds a lot of these slow, intense moments. Of course, a noteworthy example that comes to mind is this new mission that everybody's talking about, where you have to slowly sneak through a building and only engage in enemies if you know they're a threat. You've probably heard all the praise, so I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, this part of the game is really awesome. There's a mission that I haven't heard too many people talk about, where you get closed off in a tunnel in near pitch black darkness, and you have to take out enemies by carefully navigating through all the darkness. There's a mission where you have to fly drones into helicopters. There's a mission where you have to do long distance sniping, where you have to line up the certain pegs depending on the distance and account for the wind. And as somebody who isn't all about the shooting anymore, I was even up for the complete non-shooting sections of the game, and I was able to appreciate the really gimmicky moments. For example, there's this mission where you have to sneak a woman out of a building while navigating her around enemies through security cameras. I'm going to guess that a lot of people didn't really like this part, but I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. Even the missions just involving the standard shooting on foot stuff threw in at least some kind of new small mechanic or gimmick most of the time, so even the standard shooting sections all feel different from each other. The story does a good job of gluing this all together, and while the story will at least interest you and make you want to see what comes next, it isn't really anything to write home about. Ignoring the edginess for a second, it's definitely constructed in a way that is pretty standard and cliched. Dialogue can be pretty iffy, with some really cool lines, but all the cool lines mainly come from Captain Price, and the rest are either bland or even corny and lame. The way it's presented also runs into this issue, where it feels kind of rushed at some points. In cutscenes, before you even have a chance to register and marinate on a big moment that happened, it almost feels like it's already far past that and onto something completely different. And I don't know whether to love or to hate all the forced fan service this game is full of. It feels like every other mission has this really forced reference to the original Modern Warfare. There's this one scene where Gaz and Captain Price are in a car, and there's police officers down the road, and then Gaz is all like, gee whiz, fan favorite character from the original Modern Warfare, Captain Price, how are we going to get past these police officers? And then it zooms into Captain Price's face, and he's like, shock and awe. And it's like, I want to be angry. I really want to be angry because that is the most ham-fisted and forced reference on the planet. They're obviously just trying to just toy with my emotions, but how can I not smile? The original Modern Warfare was one of my favorite games for the entirety of my childhood, my entire pre-teens and my early teens. Modern Warfare was one of my favorite games of all time, so how can I not smile when Captain Price runs over to the main character and picks him up and says, "On your feet, we're leaving." But maybe the game really does need these moments for you to smile with all the fucked up shit they make you see. For the topic of this game's edginess, there seems to be two different stances. Some people say they love the edginess and think that there's a good message to learn from it, and then others hate it and they think that it's all unwarranted and lame. which is really funny because I'm about to immediately contradict myself and be in the middle, but leaning a little bit towards negative. I swear I'm not just being an asshole centrist who's too scared to pick a side. This is really how I feel. There are some points where the edginess feels warranted. There's some moments where the edginess feels like shock value, but like sort of like good shock value, like the kind of shock value where I'm willing to go along with it to see what kind of message they're going with it. But then there were others where it felt like they went too far and it was unnecessary. A lot of the time when they show you something edgy, it's to prove a point in this moral that the story has. I was willing to go along with this at first. It's just that after them making you want to vomit 5 times in order to prove this point, at around the 6th or 7th time, I felt like I got the message, and I was sick of them making me want to stab my eyeballs to prove this message I already got loud and clear. What's worse is that near the end of the game, they literally had one of the characters just say the moral of the story out loud. Like, that's shitty writing anywhere, but it felt even worse here. It just felt like, what the fuck was the point of making me feel like slamming my head with a car door to prove this point if you were just going to say the point out loud and just have a character just explain this point? I get what they were going for with all the edginess, but I don't know if the moral of the story is so sophisticated that they needed to go this far with the dark content. Some of the darkness was good. I will give them that. Some of the darkness was good, but it felt like there were certain scenes where it went too far and the sheer amount of it was overkill. But I don't even feel like getting this upset about it because it's just a Call of Duty campaign after all. You're not supposed to think this much about it. It's not a super memorable, meaningful experience. It's a summer blockbuster movie except for video games. You go in there to shut your brain off and have a good time, and then you walk out and you don't think about it much afterwards. This just happens to be a really well-made, dumb blockbuster movie. I really like what they were going for with the gameplay. I've heard some people say that some of it was forced variety, but I honestly had a really great time with everything this game threw at me. The shooting felt awesome, and it had a story that was flawed but still interesting. I had a surprisingly good experience with it, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with the second Modern Warfare, with maybe exploring more of these slow, tense moments and ironing out some of the other kinks that this game has. I'm going to say that Modern Warfare is really good.